Can this tutorial wait for a minute? I'm in the middle of some calibration. Here we are, YouTube, on our 5th day, the final day of the week that I have put out all of these video game tutorials. This has been so much fun. I have absolutely loved doing it. You know, it's kept me really busy and it's taken a lot of work to do, and I love it, and you guys obviously really like it too, which I so appreciate. Thank you so much for watching all of these tutorials and, you know, showing me so much excitement about this whole week. This is going to be Garrus from the Mass Effect series. As you can see, I took a little bit more of an artsy style to him. I didn't want to go too realistic because with this week I've tried to show you guys many different art styles. And so I actually was looking at pictures of Garrus for reference, and I found this amazing piece of art on Deviant Art, and it is by artist Bogni. And, you know, this was a little bit of a take on his work. I definitely made it my own, but I love the style that he drew Garrus in, so I knew that I had to do that shit too. So I was really happy that I did find his piece though, because this is, you know, yet again another element that I can bring to you guys in the tutorials. You know, this is how to make a very realistic character still look detailed but artsy and different. As always, I will have all products listed down below so you can find all of that, and I'll have all my codes and links so that you can get money off on products if you want. That's up to you. I'm going to apologize first off to you guys just because this is a detailed look, and unfortunately I did jump around a little bit, so it's not going to be a complete step-by-step tutorial, but I will still explain what I'm doing while we go. I'm just looking at the reference picture on my phone, and I am using a NYX pencil to just outline some of Garrus's features. This is just going to act as a rough guideline for when I start painting. Garrus has this very rocky style skin, very textured, so I'm going in with one of my favorite brushes to paint, as you guys know, the F65 from Sigma, and some Mehron makeup paint in white with a tiny bit of black to get that really light gray. This is going to be the base for all of those little white textury rock spots that he has. To add a little highlight, I'm going in with MAC's acrylic white paint just to lighten up some parts of the rocky texture. Using an E06 brush from Sigma, I'm going to start outlining some of the spots that are completely black on Garrus. Now, when I say completely black, I mean completely black. I don't want to, you know, completely outline where something's dark because there's tons of shadow in him. So only right now outline what is absolutely black. And so far I look like a cat. Don't be afraid to be messy because we are going with a very artsy style of Garrus. Still using the E06 brush, Garrus has a lot of this kind of cobalt blue color, so I'm going in with Lagoon Blue for Mehron makeup and just adding that in where he has some of the blue. His nose is very angular, so of course we definitely want to lighten up the top side because that's where most of the highlight would hit, so I'm just mixing in some white face paint for the top of the nose. Now for the rocky texture. What I'm going to be doing here is using an E45 brush from Sigma, and I'm going to be dry brushing the product onto my skin. What that means is pretty much putting down some black paint and grabbing it with a dry brush and just gently kind of rubbing it around to get this texture. I'm also going to be using my MAC 210 brush, which I love with all my heart, to really draw some of these fine lines. Pretty much just keep adding all of this texture any way you can with little cracks, little dots, but also keep in mind that there still is a highlight and there still is a point of where the light's coming down. So I'm not going to add tons of texture in the middle of these rocks. I want most of the texture towards where the ends of them would be and where these little cracks come through. I'm also going to be continuing to add texture with the E06 brush as well, just still mixing white and black body paint together. As you can see, I'm trying all kinds of different techniques to get it. I'm dry brushing with the E06. I'm also using a big shading brush. You can pretty much do whatever. Just to make the nose look even more angular, I'm adding a sharp line and some shadow, and then I am going to just be adding little splotches and colors of black to make his nose a little more interesting. Still using that 210 brush from MAC and the black body paint, I'm going to be going in and drawing some more lines and adding in some more of the cracks and little pieces he has hanging from his face. Garrus has a pretty fucked up face on one side, so we're just going to really intensify that. My best advice is to just use a reference picture, honestly. You can see how many times I look at my reference picture, and from my whole art background, I was taught forever, that a good artist looks at their reference picture or their, still life that they're looking at 90% of the time. So just keep looking at your reference picture. Take your time and really pay attention to proportions, because proportions will make the difference in creating a character. I'm just pretty much going to be continuing to draw on all of these lines on his mangled side of his face. Garrus is known by that signature side of his face, it's super mangled up, so I'm just really trying to intensify that. Make sure to use plenty of white and black, mix the colors together. You want tons of highlight and shadow, because highlight and shadow will really bring a character to life. I'm just going to be continuing to mix the white and black paints to create more of a jawline for him, and then going back in with some of that cobalt color to start adding where the bottom of his jaw is. Even his jaw is really cracked and messed up, so I'm going to be continuing to do that with more black body paint. Try to keep in mind that everything has a reason. What I'm doing with my chin right now, the rock texture would cast a shadow into that exposed part, so add a lot of shadow in there. I just want to keep adding some more highlights using that E06 brush and the white MAC acrylic paint. With some very watered down black body paint, I am just going to fill in around where the other eye would be. Garrus has this fancy little eye dealio going on the other side of his face, so we are going to try to replicate that with paint to the best of our ability. What it is pretty much a purple screen. He has two large circles that encompass the screen as well, so I am going to be drawing those on with the same colors but just adding on a little more white, and then the smaller circle adding even more white to the point where it's pretty much just white, like the tiniest bit purple. For the neck and the chest, I wanted to really make it super artsy at this point, so I'm pretty much just going to be taking the same paints I've been using and mixing them all together. Blues, grays, I'm adding in more purple and just getting this really cool texture. Still keep in mind a little bit of the realistic highlight and shadow. There would be a nice shadow cast right onto his neck, and then I am going to fill in the other side of his neck with gray paint. He has this cobalty, purple, pretty suit going on, so I'm going to start filling that in as well. can't complete Garrus without my hair being gray too and rocky looking, so I'm just using the same white and black Mayron paint mixed together to put that all over my hair. Now I am jumping back to doing more texture. You know, as I'm going, I'm seeing that, oh my gosh, there's not enough texture going in. I really want it to blend into the hairline. So I'm taking eyeshadows from the Morphe 35N palette, the light gray and dark gray, and I'm really just meshing them into my scalp. Oh, texture, texture, texture. I can't say it enough. Just keep going, you know, using that dry brushing technique and really just keep adding it. I feel with this character you can't have enough. He's so detail oriented. Last tutorial was dimension that I kept saying. This tutorial, it's texture. I guess I just pick a word, one tutorial, and just boom, stick to that. Still using the black body paint and the E06 brush, I'm going to darken up some of those creases in the rocks, and then I'm going to add the lines that Garrus has on his neck. I'm using more body paint to splotch it around and make it look artsy to match the other side of the neck. I want to add a little highlight, so I am going in with that same cobalt Amazon blue, right? Amazon blue, is that it? And white mixed together to just kind of highlight the top of where his little suit is. You know, his suit is super detailed, but I want to stick with that artsy style, so I'm just going in with splotches of black body paint and some white as well. I also did realize that part of his suit is mangled just like the side of his face, so I'm going in and adding that in to make it look a little more cracked and intense. I realized that that looked much more like a shirt on him than his suit, so I'm just going to curve the other side a little bit more. I thought, why not add a little bit more brightness to his suit? So I'm going ahead and adding some dots of the MAC acrylic paint and patting it with my hand while the paint is still wet and moving the product around so it disperses and looks more splotchy. I have been opening and closing my eyes for so long, so I am just going to kind of re-go over some of the colors on the screen part of my eye. Now for his beautiful blue little eyeball, I am taking some light blue paint from Mayron and white to first start drawing a small little circle where the iris is. Take your time and gradually make it bigger. Make sure to keep a very complete circle. That is so important. You want it to be completely round. You do not want any weird edges because that will make it look very unrealistic. I'm just setting this now a little bit with a shadow from the Morphe 35B palette. Using a MAC 210 brush to do this whole thing because it is so small, I'm going to start drawing on the pupil. Take your time on the pupil as well, because if the pupil is not directly in the center of the iris, it will look off. Lighten up one portion of the eye using white MAC acrylic paint, and then darken the top a little bit using a little bit of black and blue paint mixed together. You definitely want a big highlight on the eye, so I am using the MAC acrylic paint in white. Then just some black body paint, again, to make sure to clean up any edges I have. Here I am just adding a few more last minute details. I want tons of lines going on, so I am just continuing to add some until I see that it is fit and done. And that concludes your artsy little Garrus. He's so cute. I love him. And thank you for sticking with me through this week of video game tutorials. It's been so much fun. It's been an awesome experience, and I will definitely continue to add more to these video game tutorials. Make sure to, tell me your requests down below, because these are fucking badass. Now, most importantly, go play some video games, nerds. Until next time.